Life and business can be easy, but us silly humans love getting in our own way. My name is Nico Rapklis, and I've had a wild journey. From releasing traumas that I held on to for decades, to playing college athletics, working with multi-million-dollar brands, having a spiritual awakening, and now coaching incredible humans navigate their inner and outer world. The Just Grow podcast is my outlet to share and help others with life and business. After investing north of $100,000 into my personal and professional development, the Woo plus Do formula is what has served me best. A healthy combination of mindset, energetics, consciousness, spirituality, self-healing, and discovery, matched with a high-level strategy, principles, focus, optimization, and accountability to help you be, do, and have everything that has been placed in your heart. This podcast is for the impact-driven entrepreneur that is finally ready to start thriving internally and externally. Welcome to Just Grow. Yo, what's happening, my friends? Welcome to this episode of the Just Grow podcast. I'm your host, Nico Rapklis, and really excited about this interview. This interview is actually a little bit different than some of the episodes that we've done, but also similar in the same sense. This is an episode done with my good friend, Emily Freeman, who is quickly becoming one of the top tier dating coaches for successful men. And it's just really cool to see her blossom and her grow. When I met her, she was doing well, but now she's skyrocketed. She's been on some of the biggest podcasts in the world. She's blown her Instagram up past 100,000 followers, and people are really gravitating to her because of the work that she does. And she helps you realize and helps you clear blocks that are stopping you from attracting the women that you truly want in your dating life. She focuses on men, as I mentioned, that are already highly successful in their careers. So great episode. We talk a lot about the subconscious, how that stops you from things in dating, but also in success in life in general and business too. So anyways, this is a great interview. Really excited for you to listen to this one. If you want to learn more information about the podcast as well as our coaching company, you can head over to justgrowpodcast.com or justgrowvisions.com. We're likely putting together another live event here in Scottsdale, Arizona. So if you'd like to attend, head on over to one of those sites and check it out. So anyways, without further ado, let's jump into this interview with Emily Freeman.
Well, Emily Freeman.
Yes.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. This, I think it was a long time coming. We had some good conversations at the cabin.
We did.
And then, your business is going wild. You're having great success, and that just comes from the person that you are.
Oh, thank you.
So,
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can see why it's taken off like it is, and it's really cool to watch and see.
Thank you.
You're really helping a lot of guys.
I appreciate that. I mean, that's the whole point of it all, right? Is in order to make an impact, in order to help people and change lives and help people find love, right?
Yeah.
The thing that it seems like we're all searching for on one level or another.
Yeah. Yeah, why don't we dive into I'd love to hear a little bit more of like how you actually got into helping men with their dating lives.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, like even something that popped up is you said that we're all trying to find love. But it's almost like, I don't know, you're the expert obviously, but something that just kind of like came to mind is like, do you feel that a lot of people are kind of, what's the word? I mean, lost a little bit around love, but also like making it seem like it's not that big of a deal until it is?
Yeah, I think a lot of us misconstrue what love really is, right? We use love as an excuse to bolster our own egos, to feel safe in the world, to ultimately experience things we feel.
My timer, keep going.
To like ultimately experience things that we feel like we can't experience on our own. And there's some truth to that, right? I mean, I believe we're born to not go through this life by ourselves. But I think what is getting mixed up in our world right now is kind of that instant gratification of love and that instant gratification of finding somebody and the dopamine rush that comes with finding that person or thinking you found that person. And then as soon as things get difficult or as soon as you're met with yourself, right, people want to disengage and they want to leave. And so I think the idea of love is so conditional right now, and it makes sense, right? We are a species of survival. So we look for how are we going to survive? How are we going to have the life that we want? How do we avoid our fears? But in doing that, we don't allow ourselves to truly open our heart to somebody for all parts of them and all parts of who they are. And that to me is love. And experiencing that for myself, being loved in that way for the first time in my life, like, oh, is really, it's really remarkable. I have never felt, he's coughing.
He wants to be a part of it.
Shh, honey. It allows you so much more freedom. And I see freedom as being such a pillar of love. And to be able to feel that acceptance from somebody and be able to give it back is something that I think a lot of people leave out of the equation. And, you know, in my work, because I work mainly with men, that's like the deepest core desire that a man has, is to feel accepted. But so many men are not accepting of themselves, and it makes it so hard to attract a woman who would be able to reciprocate that. Because when you're not accepting of yourself, you look to your partner to try to fill those gaps. And I see a lot of people, you know, want partners to feel like they have achieved something in their lives and achieved a certain type of person or a certain type of partnership. And I want everyone to experience that deep love, that love and acceptance. And you can have that person that you're like, oh, I would feel so proud to stand next to him or her. I would feel so amazing to know that I got somebody like that. That's valid, that's true. But if that is your driving force in order to attract somebody, it's never going to happen. The polarity is going to be off. You're going to be so reliant on them in order to feel a certain way that your own growth gets stunted. And as soon as you are met with your mirror, which you will in relationship, then it feels scary because ultimately you've been trying to escape it the whole time.
Wow. There's a lot in that.
Yeah.
Well, a couple of things is, one, like the option, the whole concept about, the whole conversation about options these days.
Yes.
So many options. And
A lot.
actually, I'll share this with you because
Yeah.
you'll probably find this funny. Well, what's your thoughts about dating apps first?
So I have a lot of mixed feelings about dating apps. I see dating apps as a tool.
Okay.
And so I obviously met my fiance on Bumble.
Oh,
So
I did not know
you
that.
didn't know that?
I did not know that.
Yeah, Mike and I met on Bumble. So I am so grateful for the apps, and I did the majority when I was single of dating through the apps.
Okay.
You know, especially during the pandemic,
Yeah.
right? That was really the way to meet people. And I thought it was amazing, even before the pandemic when I was dating, I thought it was amazing that here are all these men who I maybe wouldn't have met in actual life that I can connect with, and how exciting that is. But I think what's happened is the apps have given us that sense of like instant gratification where it can become a rush to get back on the apps. And so we're quick to give up on what's in front of us, thinking we have something really easy on our fingertips, to only go back to the same cycle and recognize, oh wait, this isn't actually what I want. And so, you know, I think the dating apps, when utilized in a correct way as a tool in order to meet that person and to like cast a wider net, is amazing. But dating apps as a distraction, or dating apps as a means to avoid the actual growth with another person or within yourself, obviously you could say that about anything, right? So, you know, I think that technology in general, you know, anything that allows us to have more access to something, it seems like there are always two sides of the coin to it. And it's a matter of how you personally view it and use it. And that's why I teach men, like, it is so important that you identify what your thoughts are about dating apps before even getting on the apps, because that is going to be the number one indicator of what experience you're going to have on them.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like the intentionality behind anything. It's like whatever the intention is usually comes to fruition.
Yes.
And I think just like the conversation around like social media or dating apps or anything that has an addictive, that could have an addictive behavior. But if you use it with the right intention, it can be a powerful tool. And I think too is like, it can be a time saver, because like if you're going on a lot of dates and you don't know anything about this person before you go on a date, then you find out like they're not any of the values that you care about, then it is a waste of time.
Plus you can do it like in your PJs.
Yeah.
That's what I love. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm like out and about, you know, without actually having to be out and about.
Yeah. I heard a stat. I would love to hear what your take on this.
Sure.
It was kind of alarming, and they were talking about how like dating apps is kind of like the reason that this has happened. But they say like, don't quote me on the exacts, but it was like 50%, I think it was US based, 50% of men are not actively pursuing any sort of relationship, whether that's casual or serious.
Wow. Yeah, I've heard that statistic as well, and it actually breaks my heart.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I have my theories as to why, and other people have their theories as to why, but I think it's become so hard for us to genuinely connect with other people. Yeah. And like I said, you know, relationships are amazing. They allow us to expand in ways that we never have, but we're also going to be met with sides of ourselves that we aren't met when we're single, right? Like I get a lot of clients, and me myself personally have experienced this, where you're single and you're like, I'm good. Like I feel so good about myself. I feel so confident. I'm going to be the most secure, amazing partner when that person comes into my life. And then you meet that person and it's like, what just happened? Where did I go? Yeah. Where did I go? Where did this version of me come from? And it's because relationships can really trigger those core wounds so much deeper than anything else. Now, I'd also argue that entrepreneurship is definitely a quick way to self-actualization, right? It definitely can show us and be a mirror to where we lack wholeness, right? Or where we can achieve more wholeness. And relationships do the same thing. So to hear that that piece is not there for so many men is, it's heartbreaking, because that, even though that can be uncomfortable, it's so gratifying, and to have that type of bond with a person is, it's hard to even put it into words.
Well, let me even ask that. I think it's a great point. Is I've had some awareness around, I feel like I can start losing myself when I'm in relationships. So what would you say to that? Like, how do you, because I feel like right now I am in that phase where I'm single and I'm really confident and things are going well, just like what you're explaining. And I've been there before, and then I get into relationships and I start losing myself a little bit. What's your advice on that?
So that a lot of the times comes down to your subconscious programming and the way that you view love, or your ability to get love, right? So I see this with a lot of high-performing men, is the subconscious desire to achieve love. So think about it. When you are trying to achieve something, it becomes almost like an obsession, a focus, right? And when you believe that you have to really overcome the odds and put yourself out there, and it's going to be challenging, and love is going to be difficult, and you have to be able to like navigate all these different things in order to actually receive it, or be a certain type of person, or be a certain type of way, it's really easy to lose yourself, because ultimately then you're not actually thinking about you, you're thinking about, how do I feel wholer with this person, right? Or how do I get wholeness with this person? And so it is really, really important that men and women continue to do the work as they get into relationship. You know, the reasons why you feel so good when you're single is, one of the reasons is you do actually prioritize the things that make you feel good, because you have to. You don't have a partner there to just be like, oh, this is like easy little, like, you know, cuddling, and you get all the like oxytocin and you feel all good. And, you know, you have to do the things to build yourself up. And it feels sometimes safer to do the work too, because you feel like it's just you. And in a partnership, you know, meeting sides of yourself, that your shadow sides, the sides that you don't feel great about, or you don't want someone else to see, right? You don't even want to see them. That's why they're shadow. So you don't want someone else to see them. Doing that with another person in your orbit at that time, or just in your life, can be really scary because there's a threat of, oh my gosh, how deep could I go without losing this person? And so we tend to take the focus off of ourselves and put it onto the relationship, onto the other person, and ultimately lose ourselves. Now, it all can also vary on your attachment style, which is also, subconscious programming. If you have more of more anxious tendencies in dating, like anxious attachment tendencies, then you can lose yourself because the fear of abandonment is so strong that everything you're doing is in survival mode to make sure you're not left. Or if you have a fearful avoidant attachment style, everything you're doing is in order to not be rejected, right? That's also called anxious avoidant. So you'll actually find little reasons why you'll search for signs that she or he might be rejecting you so you can reject them before they reject you. So you're constantly on the lookout for that. Even if you have more of an avoidant style, that fear of intimacy, that fear of engulfment can become so strong that you disconnect from the partnership and instead distract with all the things around you, but you're still not really in you. You're not actually aligned with yourself because in order to avoid the pain or the fear of that engulfment, you're still using other things as distraction, just not the relationship itself, more like an anxious attacher. So that's my indirect advice to you, because there can be so many different reasons that we lose ourselves, but ultimately, it comes down to just using relationships potentially as a reason to avoid the things that we actually need to grow from the very most.
And how do you figure out, how do you become more aware? Because I love that you kind of brought this up in the subconscious reprogramming, because I think it applies to all of life.
Yeah.
I think the first step always is awareness. So you talked about the attachment styles.
Yes.
How do you become more aware of what your particular attachment style is?
Yeah. There are tests out there on the internet you can take, but it's really important to first develop the ability to be self-aware, meaning of your emotional experience. I hope I didn't just touch the mic. Sorry guys. So the first thing is to become aware of your emotional experience. And now a lot of people, but especially men, are not very aware of what's going on emotionally from them, right? You can kind of feel like I'm uncomfortable, or I feel angry, or I feel upset, or you just know that it's not good. But a lot of men are disconnected from the actual feeling itself. And so the first step is always to be able to identify those feelings. What is it you're actually feeling when your chest gets tight, or when you are clenching your fists, or when you want to run away from somebody, or you start picking out flaws in a woman, or you aren't getting a text back from her and you're worried about it and you can't focus? What is it you're actually feeling, right?
So to put words to it?
Yes, put words to it. Yeah, label to it. There's really great emotion wheels online. Our mutual friend Natalie turned me on to emotion wheels. So those are really great to be able to see the spectrum of emotion, because sometimes we don't even know how to name it.
Yeah.
So being able to name the emotion first and foremost, because it's really hard to do any healing work until you take yourself out of your behaviors. Right? That's the release of the ego. Because if you're attaching yourself to even your thoughts or your behaviors, it's really hard to heal, because then there's shame piled on top of the pain that's already happening.
Yeah.
So the first step, like I said, emotional awareness. The second step is radical self-compassion. Right? So radical honesty and radical self-compassion. Because when you can have self-compassion, then you can face any sides of yourself. I remember during my journey, there were times I would look at myself in the mirror and just be like, I love you no matter what. I'm never leaving. You are the best, because there's that fear of, oh my gosh, I'm not going to be loved. I'm not going to be lovable. But if you know you have your own back, then you can believe that someone else will too.
So that's what radical compassion looks like.
Yes.
Just your own hype man.
Your own hype man.
Hype woman.
Yes. But also, having radical compassion means allowing yourself to be in the ick too, to be in that emotion that's the discomfort, and to be able to lean into it. Because if you just immediately go to the positive or take yourself out of it, then you don't actually learn what's coming up for you subconsciously. Because it takes silence, it takes stillness to tap into your subconscious.
That's a good point.
Yeah, so if you're immediately going, oh, I don't feel good, let me just go hype myself up, you're actually bypassing the whole process of understanding why you felt that way in the first place, right? So that's, a couple of steps in order to start understanding your patterns. Of course, having someone to reflect back to you, like a coach, is very helpful. It's like an easy ticket but it's also important. Like, there's a lot of responsibility as a coach to look at patterns overall, because, I have a lot of men who come to me who think they're more avoidant in dating, meaning they think, oh, because I don't want to meet a woman, I don't want to be doing this, like, I don't need a relationship right now, that they have more of an avoidant tendency. And what we sometimes uncover is that they actually have a really strong anxious attachment style, or even a fearful avoidant. And so their avoidance is of that feeling, of that actual attachment pattern, versus actually being avoidant. Like, they don't actually have a fear of intimacy or engulfment. They have that fear of abandonment, but it can be so strong that they avoid it at all costs, right? A lot of that comes from how you experienced love or observed love throughout your entire life, right? That's how our programming, we inherit it. And so it's also really important to look at, okay, what thoughts and beliefs, what limiting beliefs have I inherited throughout my life? And, another step is radical ownership.
Yeah.
Do I actually want to think these things? Is this actually serving me? Yes, no, okay. What would serve me? What new mindset would actually serve me? Because you get to choose your thoughts. But it can be really easy to just blame our thoughts and be like, well, no, that's true. Dating apps suck.
Yeah.
It's like, well, didn't suck for me, right?
Yeah.
And then someone would be like, well, that's because you're a woman. And it's like, no, there's plenty of women that struggle online. But I went into it excited.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was on the apps for a while, and I was going through a lot of painful experiences in my dating life. There was a lot of pain that came up specifically from dating and using the dating apps. But I never blamed the apps.
Sure.
I always looked at, okay, why am I experiencing this?
Yeah.
What do I need to learn from this experience right now in order to get to my dream man?
What would you, this is kind of like a curious question,
Sure.
but like what, generally speaking, kind of when we talked about that stat earlier,
Yeah.
like what is kind of the solution? Like how do, as a world, like how do we get the dating world better?
Oh, that's a big question. Well, I'm doing my part.
I know, like, yeah.
So
I'll go hire
more people. I truly believe this work is how we do that.
Yeah.
Because if we can start to see our patterns, then we stop running from them. Or not even see our patterns, if we can start accepting our patterns and accepting our humanness, then we don't need to keep running from it. I think there's also a sense too of a lot of the world lives in fear versus love.
Yeah.
And that creates it creates the fight or flight response, right? Either you continue to put yourself out there, but then you're on guard the whole time, looking for how this person could potentially screw up your life or screw you over or whatnot. Or you flee the other direction, right? There's also freeze too, and do nothing about it. But in order for us to get out of that response, we have to heal, right? Another mutual friend of ours, Wes Kress, he always says that, and I just lost my train of thought. There's something that came to that, anytime we have a sense of urgency, that it is a trauma response.
Interesting.
Anytime we have a sense of urgency. So think about it like being an entrepreneur or being in a relationship. If you feel that sense of urgency come up, that's actually a trauma response. And so it's really important to identify, why do I feel this sense of urgency? Right? A lot of the times we think that's drive, that's motivation, but that's not actually the core of drive, of motivation. It's actually a trauma response, because that sense of urgency, I mean, think about how much energy we waste on urgency, right? Versus just allowing ourselves to go through our day, allowing ourselves to be in the relationship, allowing ourselves to experience that So I think as a whole, if we could learn how to release a little bit of that sense of urgency to have it all and have it all right now, that we could connect better.
That's a good answer.
While still
There's the
working towards
urgency.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that word allow. That's actually been something that's continues to pop up for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's like when you just allow life
Yeah.
rather than like force it,
Mm-hmm.
then it just seems to start flowing in.
Yeah.
So awareness is the first step.
Yes.
Then compassion
Mm-hmm.
and ownership.
Mm-hmm.
What's the next step?
Change, embodiment, right? So I get a lot of men who come to me and they're like, okay, cool, thank you for that information. I already knew all this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, yes, knowing is one thing, doing is another. And actually being able to embody it is sometimes the hardest part, because it requires us to actually change our behaviors and change the way we go throughout our day. And, you know, this work is a rinse, wash, repeat cycle. And so it will, at times, things will come up again. And the more that you do the work, the less severe it is and the less triggering things feel. And eventually there are things that subside. But as you're going through the healing and doing that, it's important to continue to stay the course and to go back to the awareness, compassion, ownership, embodiment.
Just keep cycling.
Yeah. But the embodiment piece is tough because we have to actually choose to act differently, choose to show up differently.
Mm-hmm. There's a quote as you were saying that is, to know and not to do is to not know.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Because it's like the awareness, it's so important, and then the like accountability and compassion and all that's amazing, but like nothing happens unless you take action and do it and embody it.
Yes.
So it is kind of like, what's even the point of all that awareness and all that if you're not even gonna go implement it all?
Right. And the awareness piece in itself can be healing, right? And the compassion piece too. But in those moments where you really want to act in old programming, what do? Do you actually go and act in it? Because your subconscious really wants you to. It's like, wait, why aren't we keeping ourselves safe? What's going on?
Right.
Right? Because it's programmed that way because it thinks that's how that you stay safe. But in reality, it's hindering you from getting what it is that you actually desire. So in that moment, how do you let your subconscious know, hey, we're good, we're safe, it's okay. And in fact, this is actually where I want you to direct. And that takes a lot of emotional regulation in that moment, because when we're triggered or when something comes up, it's like, right? Like you just want to get out of that feeling. And a lot of the times the way that we try to get out of a feeling is to create more of the feeling and more of the chaos, right?
Digging yourself in.
Yes, just digging yourself in, burning it all down, digging a hole, whatever it is. That's how we self-sabotage, right? Where that's why you can know all the information and still feel like you're self-sabotaging your life, is because in those moments you're not actually taking ownership, you're not actually regulating, and you're not actually doing that deep work of letting yourself be so uncomfortable in that moment that you actually deal with it within you, not try to solve it externally.
What's your thoughts on, so what exactly does embodiment mean to you?
So embodiment to me means stepping into that version of yourself that has the programming that will get you what you desire. So embodiment of it means actually holding space for yourself in those moments and showing yourself that self-compassion in order to make a new decision, right? Take ownership to make a new decision. Because we're human. There are going to be moments in time where we want to run or we want to fight or we want to freeze. But how do you actually nurture those sides of yourself in the moment to be able to then communicate and be able to relate to yourself and someone else in a way that actually creates more intimacy versus conflict? So embodiment really is in simple terms, like walking the walk, right? Or walking the talk. So it's not just about, I think a lot of people think like embodiment, like, oh, you dress the way for the part that you want, or you walk the way that your future self would walk. And all of those pieces can be really great to get your subconscious to click into, okay, I am in my new programming, I am in the reality that I'm creating, but that's not the fix. Going to the gym and getting in shape is also, not going to be a fix for programming. It can help you regulate, and it can help you build confidence, and of course it helps you stay healthy, but it's not necessarily going to allow you to embody that level of growth or that level of openness or that level of expansion that you're trying to achieve.
So with your clients, I would be curious. So once they get through the more awareness, and then they are doing the compassion and the embodiment, like what are the actions? Are they going and getting on the dating apps more? Are they going and approaching women? Are they going on lots of dates? Is that kind of like
all of the above?
actions?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, it depends on where they are and their goals, right? So I get a lot of men who, it's not necessarily attracting women that's the problem, it's attracting the right woman. So some of that embodiment can be saying no to somebody who is not showing up for you, or is not right for you, even though you feel an intense connection, right, or chemistry with her. So that way you can actually open yourself up energetically for a woman who would come in, right? Or embodiment is, when you don't get that text back from her, instead of using the next 3 hours to worry about it, or to check her social media, or to double text her again, right, in hopes that you'll know that she's not leaving you, to actually be with that emotion, process it. It goes by faster than you think, and then continue to put the focus back on you, right? We talked about losing ourselves in relationship. So that's embodiment. Embodiment can also be, being able to approach a woman and not feel like you need a script, or not feel like you need to have some sort of plan, but rather you can actually just connect with a person in the moment. Embodiment looks like allowing yourself to commit to getting to know somebody, even if it feels uncomfortable at times. Embodiment looks like stopping yourself from blaming someone else for your feelings, and instead looking inward and going, what's coming up for me, and then learning how to communicate it in that way. And embodiment can also look like, why am I trying to push this person away? Why am I trying to burn this down right now? What's coming up for me? Because it's not actually that I don't want to be with this person isn't right for me, or that they're not good enough for me. It's that there's something actually that I fear so much about getting to the other side of this, and actually being in a relationship that's deeper than I've ever experienced before. So it's those moments. It's being able to continue to learn how to accept yourself, so you can actually learn to accept your partner. It sounds so much easier than it is.
It's simple. I think simple, but it's not. Simple doesn't mean easy.
No, that's true.
And us as complex humans, we like to try and make simple things complex.
100%.
What's your thoughts on like visualization within dating?
I love visualization. Yeah. So a lot of what I teach is based on law of attraction.
Okay.
And I actually have guided visualizations in my course, specifically for but it's audio.
Yeah.
So allowing them to visualize what it would be like to be in the energy of their dream woman. And so, I definitely believe in law of attraction. I've practiced it both in my personal life and my business, and it's been something that I believe very deeply in and has served me very well. Visualization is wonderful. It's really important to tie that visualization to an emotion.
Yeah.
That's where the strength of manifestation comes in, and that's why knowing how to actually identify your emotions and get in touch with them is so important, because a lot of the times we block ourselves from what we desire because we don't actually know how to feel that level of abundance, that level of success, that level of love, and we push it away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so important, the emotion. Have you read, I assume you read Dr. Joe Dispenza?
Yes, yeah.
So something that's really been speaking to me lately, and I've even kind of like started implementing it in a lot of stuff we do, is like, because I've always been very intentional.
Yeah.
Right? Set the intention, just like what we talked about, but also set the intention of the emotion that you want to feel. And that's what he talks about a lot. And it's like, I like what you say about visualize the, would you say the energy that you want to feel when you're
what it would
among-
feel like to be in the energy of your dream woman, like to
Right.
be around her energy, right? Because you also want to attract in the energy that will serve you and that you desire. So feeling it from both within yourself and from her simultaneously.
Because I thought about that too, is like, if you're just like, oh, I'm visualizing that exact person, sometimes our manifestations are not exact.
Mm-hmm.
But rather, if you're focusing on the energy,
Mm-hmm.
then that's what you're pulling in.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Tell me more about these guided visualizations that you have.
Yeah. So they're not long. They're relatively short, but they're really powerful because what they do is they allow you to connect with your dream woman and the energy that she brings into your life, and allows you to recognize what it feels like to actually be accepted and be loved. And so getting into that energy allows you to attract it into your life, because a lot of the times, well, not a lot, I would say more than a lot of the times, most frequently, we are attracted to what feels familiar.
Right.
And if chaos and criticism and scrutiny and rejection feel familiar to us, then that's what we're going to feel chemistry with, or that's who we're going to feel chemistry with.
Wow.
Yes, it's on a subconscious level. Like, it can happen before you even know that that person is unavailable. So you're actually subconsciously drawn to that person. And so in order to actually be able to be drawn and attracted to somebody who could show up for you and be emotionally available for you, you have to first identify and allow yourself to feel what that feels like. Otherwise, you'll push it away because it's so unfamiliar, it actually doesn't feel safe.
Wow.
Yes.
Our minds are crazy.
I know. It's intense. But that's what I see also so much of the time when people are like blaming online dating. I'm like, it's not that. It's that you are subconsciously attracted to unavailability. And so you're attracting other people who are unavailable, and it becomes that cycle of getting to feed into that instead of, oh my God, why am I not able to actually allow myself to be loved? Which we, I think, could see maybe more clearly if we didn't have as many options, right? But it's not the options that are necessarily the issue. It's that we aren't taking full ownership because we don't even recognize that that's what we're attracted to.
It's all under the hood.
Yes, and it also comes down to if that's how you talk to yourself, then that's the type of person that you're going to attract. Because if someone talked to you like you were the greatest, you'd be like, I'm not good enough for that. What's wrong with you? Why do you think I'm so great? I know I'm not great, so why do you think I'm great? Right?
Wow. One other thing I was thinking about, just kind of coming back to, I keep that stat just like sticks out to me about the men, and then you're talking about how the challenges in dating come from being in more of a survival mindset, and I just think that the world is in more of a survival mindset these days, and I think fear is being programmed so much more. So again, it's about rising above that.
Yes. And that's what I've tried to make my message so clear, that it's not like there's nothing to be afraid of, right? And I think so much of the time men and women too, but especially men, feel so much shame already, because you're taught to feel shameful about even having emotions a lot of the time. So you're not feeling the emotion, but then there's shame on top of the emotion. It just becomes this like
stirring up the cauldron.
Just like, yeah, exactly. So, I've always wanted to make sure that when I deliver my message, I'm not feeding into that. That it's looking at how to empower yourself in love and dating. I tried to stay as true as I can with the humanness inside of me. Sorry if anybody disagrees with that, but that is my intention. Because you can't heal if you are feeding into your own story. But that's also why there's a lot of men who are drawn to messages that actually shame them, because that's a reflection of their own internal reality. So, yeah.
I think the dating advice industry is an interesting world.
Yeah.
Because there are some like very successful dating coaches out there that don't exactly well, at least they don't embody the type of values and characteristics that I would necessarily want, even though they're like quote unquote having a successful business.
Sure. I mean, you can. There's certain advice out there that is only exacerbating the level of unavailability that we have in our world. And it's feeding into it because it's teaching games and tactics that are going to attract women or people who are unavailable or who are not fully integrated into who they are. And so that's why those games actually trigger the insecurities within somebody. So then they feel like they have to prove themselves to somebody else. And it might work, but what type of woman do you want to be with? What type of partnership do you want to create? Because that is how you're starting a relationship.
Yeah.
And that foundation is everything. And that is it's breaking trust from the very first moment that you meet somebody. And I see this happen time and time again, where a man finally gets into a relationship with a woman. He's like, I did all the things, I followed all the rules, and then he's like, how do I be myself? And I think that's where a lot of people get the limiting belief, like, oh, as soon as I showed my real colors, they left. And it's like, well, you were presenting something that wasn't you from the get-go, so it's deceitful.
Yeah.
Right? So it's not even necessarily that you finally were able to be yourself and he or she didn't accept it. It was he or she wasn't expecting that, and now who are you to them? Yeah.
When you explain it like that, it makes so much sense.
Yes. And you know, when a woman or a man is drawn to being triggered around insecurities, that is a reflection of their own internal world. And so, you know, they don't always know how to show up as a partner that you would really feel like your life is fuller by, right? There could be a lot of turmoil that happens, and maybe you two are brought together in order to learn that.
Yeah.
And to be mirrors for each other, and how wonderful if you end up staying together. But it's not going to be necessarily easy to overcome that facade or that wall that you've put up by playing games or by using certain tactics, and then having to allow yourself to actually be yourself, if you even know what that is in a relationship.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it comes back to the conversation awareness.
Yes.
A lot of people just don't know who they are.
Yeah.
And therefore, how the heck are you supposed to show up in a relationship if you don't know who you are?
Right. But who are you without those thoughts, right?
Layers.
So many layers.
What's your vision with your business, or
Yeah.
even, but just, I would say even your life too?
Ooh. I want to become as expansive as I possibly can be in my relationship, in my business, and within myself. You know, I think as an entrepreneur, there's a lot of times where we're like, when am I going to not be uncomfortable anymore? When am I not going to have to do something else that's uncomfortable for me to do? But
let me know when that happens.
That's the thrill of it too. You know, I think that as an entrepreneur, you're drawn to entrepreneurship for a reason. Right? That just going by someone else's quote unquote rules or something you can do it, but it's not necessarily what gives you that drive. And so for me, both in my relationship, I have, you know, a lot of experiences in my life that have made relationships harder for me, and I've like a pretty like strong insecure attachment style that I've had to work through. And that's why I want to teach it, because I know how painful that is. Like, I know how painful it is to feel like you finally found somebody and then notice yourself going into a different version of yourself that you know is going to push that person away, but you literally cannot stop it. Like, you just can't, like, you lose yourself. And it is so painful to blame yourself for that. And what I want to do is allow people to alleviate that blame so they can actually heal and grow and become a more expansive version of themselves. And I know in order for me to continue helping people, I have to expand and grow. every single day within myself, in my relationship, in my business, and in my life. So that is my ultimate vision of it. And then what that means for it, we'll see.
Yeah.
But I'd love to, obviously I'm getting married, which I'm very excited about, thank you. And has been something I've manifested for a very, very long time. But then being a mother, right, is that next step. And what does that look like?
Yeah.
And oh my gosh, I know there's expansion that's going to come with that, especially as a business owner. So, I think that will be another level of expansion. And that's another dream of mine, to have that. And, just continue doing that. And I'm sure, as my business continues to grow and as I'm, scaling and allowing more and more people to get in front of this work, and that there's going to be challenges, and with growth comes more energy and different people, and how do I expand myself enough to be able to hold that space? How do I release enough control to allow it to grow, right? That's a huge part of growth, is that release too, and that trust. So yeah, let's see.
A lot of great things coming.
Yeah, wherever it goes, I'm open.
How do you make sure that you stay, like, you keep course correcting? Do you do anything do you do quarterly reflection or anything like that?
I feel like I do daily reflection.
Well, yeah, of course, but maybe
Yes.
bigger, just, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not really I can be very structured and regimented, I can be disciplined in things, but I'm actually not very structured of a person. So for me, quarterly things, I'm just do it when it comes up. That's the honest truth. But yeah, for me, it really is looking at growth. For a long time, I had to really be reminded to look at it. Because I think, especially if you're, a high achiever, or, just achieving something, we don't always give ourselves enough credit. And we're always seeing what the next thing is,
right,
and trying to jump to the next. Okay, cool, I did that. Now let me go to the next one. And let me go to the next one. And I'm very grateful to have, mentors and people, and of course my partner around me, who reminds me of how far I've come and how far I've grown, and celebrate me. And that's something in our partnership that we make a big thing, is celebrations for big things, small things, just making sure we take a moment to be grateful. We'll even say gratitude before we eat dinner at night. So, those little check-ins for me are really important. And as far as the long-term vision, that to me, I'm letting evolve, because I've found that when I trust and I just stay focused on what I want to create, then the universe opens up the paths for me to keep moving forward, as long as I'm open to it.
Yep.
So that's kind of my check-ins. I don't remember your exact question at this point in my little dialogue
I was just curious
here.
because I've even heard about there's a practice of even within relationships, they have quarterly meetings.
Yeah.
Just
we'll
hey,
do
let's
weekly
check
meetings. They're not always weekly. Sometimes we're slacking, but we do meetings of what went well and what didn't go well, or I guess what we would like to improve on in our relationship that week. So yeah, that's been something that's been helpful. So yeah, but I would say that as far, I still have my coach. She's still my coach to this day.
Cool.
I'm so grateful. And so she and I, when we meet every week, or sometimes multiple times per week, depending on what we're working on, that's also a good check too, for me to remember where I'm going. Because I think sometimes too, life moves so fast that you're just kind of going with it. Mm-hmm. And so it's important to remember that you get to drive the ship and be supported in driving it, right? So.
A question, I've never asked this, and we'll start wrapping up.
Okay.
But it just never, I don't think I've ever asked it on this podcast, but
Okay.
I think it might be a good question
Cool.
given the conversation.
Yeah.
What are you most proud of about yourself?
I never give up. I never give up on myself, on my business, on my partnership. I never gave up on finding love. And, you know, for me, like I said, there were some really hard times. I had been through some really painful long-term relationships also. I had been really hurt in a lot of ways. But I knew I wanted it so badly. I knew it was meant for me. I knew that having that person in my life was meant for me, that I was willing to do whatever it took in order to get there, and be in coaching and invest in myself and look at the parts of me that I didn't want to, and really face that. And oh my gosh, on the other side of that, you're like, I don't want to see it. And then you see it, you're like, oh, okay, cool. Now I can do a lot more things, right? Yeah. If you can face any emotion, then there is no fear, there's no resistance, because no matter what happens, you're going to be okay, because we don't fear an outcome, we fear how it's going to make us feel. Yeah. So for me, like, never giving up, and same with like in business, I think you have to have that perseverance to be a successful entrepreneur, because you will be constantly problem solving. And you are ultimately, when you create something, you are the business, and it's so important to never give up on you, and making sure that you are allowing yourself to put you first before the business too at times, meaning like, oh, I need to actually take care of myself right now. Maybe I should wait to check that email, right? Or do I need to be checking emails at midnight tonight? Maybe I can let myself go to sleep. Yeah. Because if you drain yourself, then you can't actually serve at the capacity that is necessary in order to actually change lives. Yeah. So yeah, I guess never giving up on myself would be the thing that I am most proud of, because it's gotten me to where I am today. And it wasn't always easy.
Yeah. That's amazing. And I just applaud that, and I think that's such a valuable point.
Yeah, thank you.
Is the perseverance. We're going to go through those waves. Life is full of its ups and downs. Mm-hmm. But it's like, how are you going to respond?
Yeah.
Are you going to just give up and look back at your life with regret? Mm-hmm. Or you choose to go through that pain and reap the benefits on the other side?
Yes, absolutely. And it's so worth it. Yeah. It is so worth it. So yeah.
All right, there's another question I like to ask, and this will be our final one. What are people saying at your funeral?
Oh, so grim. I haven't quite gotten so enlightened that the idea of death doesn't scare me yet. What do people say at my funeral? I think they would say that I have a few things coming to mind, so I'm deciding between the few. But I think the biggest one that people always tell me who are closest to me is how big my heart is. And when you have a big heart, you feel a lot, and you experience a lot. And to me, having a big heart is actually, there's a sense of responsibility that goes with it, because you have a certain amount of love to give, to be able to share, or a certain amount of impact to make, because you can relate to so many people and what they're feeling. And so I think at my funeral, it would be that I was always willing to open my heart, no matter how scary it was.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I relate to that. I'm definitely more of an empath, so I can feel a lot. Mm-hmm. And so it is almost like I feel somewhat of a sense of responsibility.
Yes.
Which is sometimes a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. And it's important to honor that piece, and also know that it's important to still honor yourself in that too, mm-hmm. and learn how to protect your energy in that, which isn't always easy.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that was a great chat. I do have a little gift for you.
You do?
Yeah, I do.
Well, I love gifts.
All right.
I'm like, where is it? I'm like looking for it.
It's gonna pop out. Well, so we've been working on some cool new projects.
Okay.
And so we've been creating some cool stuff.
Oh my God, I'm so excited right now.
You're so
Gifts
just
are
to
one of
kind
my
of
big love languages.
give you a little context.
Okay.
Your highest self stopped by.
Oh my goodness, she did?
Yeah, and she wanted to tell you something.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Hey Emily, it's me. It's you, the future you. I'm so excited for you to get here. But I'm equally, if not more, pumped for you to embrace every moment until you do get here. It's cool to see how passionate, resilient, and courageous you are. I'm excited for you to see who you've become and all you've achieved. Yeah, the optimal health and vitality that allowed you to feel younger and younger every single day. The wealth you built that gave you the freedom and abundance you had always desired. The loving and committed relationships that filled your heart with so much joy. Oh, and of course, your coaching business performed even better than you imagined. But most importantly, all the lives you've had a massive impact on, especially your own.
Hey Emily, it's me, Mike, your husband. You are my everything. Your love fills my heart and brings me endless joy. I am forever grateful for you. Together we create a love story that is truly magical. You are the light of my life, and I cherish every moment with you. I love you endlessly.
Emily, I love you. I love who you are. I love who you've always been. And I love who you're constantly becoming. Now get up and make it a great day.
I love it. I'm like, is that actually him singing? No, it sounds really close to him though.
Yeah, my producer and business partner, he's been messing around with a lot of AI stuff. So.
Yeah, no, I mean, it sounds close to my voice too. Even like the pumped piece. Oh my God, I love it. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
That's
you're welcome.
wonderful. Am I gonna like get it so I can actually listen to it?
Of course,
Okay.
that's the key. You gotta
I love
listen to
it.
every
I
day.
love it. That's great.
Well, Emily, thank you so much for being on. This was
Thank you
this
for
was
having
awesome.
me.
And
Yes.
yeah, it was just cool to share and connect and hear your story a little bit more and just hear more in depth about how you're really helping guys. And
Yeah.
you're doing great work. So
Thank you.
just
Well, it's an
keep
honor
going.
to be here. So thank you for reaching out
Yeah.
and inviting me on the show.
Of course. Any last words? Where can people find you?
So you can find me on Instagram at Emily Freeman Coaching, emilyfreemancoaching.com, and then at Emily Freeman Coaching across Facebook and TikTok. I'm definitely the most active on Instagram. And if you're ready to take that next step, I do have my course, Masculine in Love. So this is a 12-week program for men to be able to build authentic confidence and all of that work that we talked about to be able to attract their dream woman. And then, of course, if you are ready to actually dive deep and get that one-on-one attention from me and in a high-touch program, then I do have those available also. So,
Cool.
yeah.
So it's a course. You have the one-on-one. And is there a group too? Or is it just those two?
The next group will be happening in the fall. So
Okay.
not right now, but at the end of summer. Keep your eyes peeled for that. Yeah.
Alrighty.
Yeah.
Cool. Any last words?
No, just thank you so much for having me. And I'm so excited to connect with anybody who connects through this podcast.
Yeah, go check her out. She's
Yes.
awesome.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.